Now, let's talk about the volume of some pretty common prisms. I thought about putting the triangular prism, but I'm going to hold against that. What is the volume? Now, these are all examples of prisms. So, what is the volume of our cube? Let's start with rectangular prism, actually. If I was to draw a rectangular prism, what would the equation be? What do we call that side? Length. What do we call that side? Width. And what do we call this side? So what's the equation for volume for that shape? Thanks, Akaja. Brock, what's the volume equation? What do you reckon?
Volume equals length times width times height.
Very good. Length times width times height. I'm going to leave you to find the area for yourself. Let's go to a cube. What's the difference between a cube and a rectangular prism? Thanks, Lachlan. What's the difference between a rectangular prism and a cube? You don't know the difference between a cube and a rectangular prism? Can you try and think?
The length is longer than the other.
Does it have to be? Brody, help me out.
The cube is like a square.
Very good. So a cube is a square. What's one of the key features of a square? The sides are equal. So a cube is like a square prism, almost. What's the equation for the area of a square? So if I was to draw this as my cube, obviously I'd have to re-look at some of my dimensions. But let's say I had a cube. What's the difference between a cube and a rectangle as far as my labelling? Coop?
It's just basically length times length.
It is length times length times length, but we just call that S by S by S. What's S times S times S? Can I write that in a more shorthand, mate? Way? S cubed, very good. And lastly, my cylinder. So my cylinder is an example, and we wouldn't have our pens up because we're listening and paying attention. That is my cylinder. And I'm going to look at this equation here and ask you to identify what is my cross-sectional area. What's the part that I slice? Is it the side or is it the top? Top. So I need to ask myself, what's the area of the top? So what's the area of a circle? Pi r squared. So my area is pi r squared times height. So that is the area of my cylinder. If I hypothetically had a triangular prism, my Toblerone, what would be the equation for that?
Is it base times height of 2?
Very good. So let's just take a step back. I need to find the area of my triangle. What's the area of my triangle? Area equals half times base times height. And this is where it's more beneficial to use, rather than using height, what should I use? I've already got H there though. Is that height talking about that height? So I'd call it, that's my area. So my volume would equal half times base times height times my length.